Anna Rose,
Yes.
welcome to the Parables. I appreciate you coming so much.
Yeah, I'm super excited
Oh
to
man,
be here.
you guys, it took a while for us to get together because of this awkward weather here in Southern California. It's raining, it's snowing, it's sunny, it's hot, it's cold. I don't know what to wear no more, truthfully. I'm very excited for this episode because one, I know you're in the self-development space.
Yes.
I am in the self-development space also, not as long as you are, so I know you'll bring so much wisdom to this episode.
I hope so.
And in addition, you are the second female guest to be on the show, and I know I've been getting a lot of requests to get some female guests.
Yeah.
And I know what you do is something special, and of course, females, you guys are all amazing. You guys bring a very unique perspective. So again, I appreciate you being here, and from driving from LA. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
I know
drove. And I'm not a driver, to be honest.
Oh, you're not a driver?
I am not a driver.
Oh,
I'm not I'm a pretty good driver. I just don't like to drive.
Yeah.
I'm from New York.
Yeah.
So before I'm moving to LA, I didn't drive for quite some time. So it's always just when it feels like it's gonna be far, there's gonna be traffic. I'm like.
Yeah.
What's gonna happen,
Yeah, you need to invest in a Tesla then. The self-driving.
I would love to. Or
Yeah.
what is it? The new BMW?
Is it self-driving too?
Self-driving, or maybe it's a Mercedes. I don't know.
One of those.
Something
right?
up there that I can't afford yet.
Yeah,
So.
you'll get there. I'm pretty sure you will.
Thanks.
So listen, I don't know if you've gotten the chance to listen to the parables. Really, I see it more. A lot of people see it as a self-development, maybe education, learning, business. I really see it as just a vessel for positive energy and really positive influence. I know the conversations and discussions that we will have will definitely, people could take something away from it and apply it to, everything in their, any area in their life. So, but first off, let's get to know you a little bit. So it just sounds like you are from New York. Let's start off where you were born, your upbringing, and things like that.
How much time do we have? No, I'm just kidding. Well, 30 years ago. No. Yeah, I'm from New York. The oldest of 6. I studied psychology, and then ended up falling into business development.
Mm-hmm.
From business development, I was there for a while, went into advertising for a startup.
Okay.
I was the 8th person hired, first woman on the sales team. My second day of work, I changed the whole platform because I sold for profit. Everyone was selling something for free, essentially.
Yes.
And I sold for profit, and I was like, well, what kind of packages do you guys have? And they're like, we don't have them. And I was like, guess you have to make them because I sold 3. And so completely changed their platform. Was there for 2 years, left when there was 100 employees, and then fell into digital marketing, where I've been in for going on 7 years.
7 years, okay.
Yeah.
How was it? Because you obviously you live here in LA.
Yeah.
How was that transition a little bit? Sorry, I'm going a little back. I just kind of.
No, you're fine. The transition from moving to New York City to LA.
Yeah.
It was a transition, actually. I didn't, in New York, you don't know your neighbors.
Okay.
You are New York City is, everyone is alone on their own mission, walking together kind of thing. You definitely don't interact with people. It's just, tunnel vision, headphones.
I was going to say tunnel vision, right?
Tunnel vision 1000%. It's dog eat dog. It's do or die. It's you work 16 hours. And if you're the first one to leave the office, you're lazy. And it's still like that, but it's still like that even in 2019. Yeah. And coming to LA was so different because I remember I moved here with my boyfriend at the time, going on 6 years ago. And I remember our neighbor, I lived in West Hollywood, and our neighbor said hi to us. And I was like, why the fuck is she saying something to us? And he goes, well, people are nice here. And he's from Texas.
Oh.
So he was definitely used to nice people. And he had been living in LA for a long time because we were in a long distance relationship before I moved out here.
Yeah.
And it was so funny. And I was like, oh, so people are nice.
I was just going to say, you know what? Sometimes it doesn't feel like that. Even outside of LA. LA is a different realm, but I was just going to say sometimes it doesn't feel like that. The pictured or the vision you see of the typical neighborhood, people are just so friendly, hey, how you doing, neighbor? And I don't know, at least that's how I feel. I feel like it's not really like that no more. And
my neighborhood is definitely before I came here, I went to the farmers market. I go every Sunday. And I was walking out and I was definitely on a mission because obviously I had to get here because I was like in a rush. And I ran into like 4 people that were coming towards me that I knew, and they were like talking. They're like, oh my God, how are you? What are you up to?
Yeah.
Blah, blah. And it was funny because I felt like I was being rude because I was like, I can't really talk. I'm in a rush, but like, it's so good to
one
see
of those
you.
moments.
But and so it was really funny because it was like kind of like the switch part where like, then I'm like the New Yorker who's like, I'm on the mission. I have to go home. And everyone's like, but it's Sunday. It's the farmer's market. How are you? Let's talk. Let's catch up. And so I think it is a very beautiful thing to have that kind of like community aspect in LA. And I haven't experienced a city in the States that is very community oriented like ours.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, you forgot to tell them that, hey, I got to get on the Parables podcast, so I got to get out of here.
The Parables podcast. Throw the plug in right there.
So let's go back to, so digital marketing.
Digital marketing.
Yeah. How many years did you say you did that?
This is going on my 7th year.
On your 7th year. Okay. So from New York, maybe I'm jumping a little bit. What made you transition from going from New York to LA?
Well, that because I was in a relationship.
Okay, so you moved to LA. You didn't go back to New York, right? You just permanently stayed in LA after that.
Well, technically yes. So that relationship ended like 6 months later of living together, maybe a little bit longer actually. And then after that, I actually left and traveled for almost 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So I lived in Mexico.
Okay.
Yeah.
For you lived in Mexico for
a year.
For about a year.
Before that, I was traveling.
Okay. Were you still doing digital marketing at the time?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm working remotely, and I have the freedom to work wherever, and that's so. So I wasn't like I haven't technically been in LA for the whole time consistently, but for the most part, this is home.
Now I understand you kind of went to, and just jump right in if I'm kind of interpreting it incorrectly. I understand you kind of went through like kind of like a rebirth, or you kind of left kind of the world to kind of just see what's out there, and kind of, that's when your self-development journey kind of began. Is that kind of how it went, or?
No. What happened was that relationship ended.
Okay.
He had another relationship behind my back, as some people do. No, but it brought me out here, and what happened was after that, I was pretty devastated, and I started to go into I just started seeking out personal development.
Yes.
And then I remember right after that breakup, he had moved out, and my brother was shooting a Land Rover commercial.
Oh, nice.
And he got to come out here for work. And so he was like, oh, I'm going to be in LA. I would love to stay with you for a week. And I know you're having a rough time. And I was like, okay, yeah, come. It'll be fun. And he came and he brought me my first crystal from the Salt Flats in Utah. I think the Salt Flats are in Utah.
Yeah, I just came from there, actually.
Oh, no way. Yeah, he brought me a crystal from there, a piece of citrine. And he taught me how to meditate that week while he was in town, and we just had really long existential discussions, and then from there the journey kind of started. Okay, so
it seems like you kind of just fell into place a little bit, kind of what happened with the ex and then your brother.
I mean, usually when people go into like a awakening, so to speak, or a big life change, it's usually from something like that you were like, I can't live this way anymore. It's usually from some type of why.
Yeah.
It becomes your why. It's some type of experience that you're just like, you go from living in one way to being like, oh shit, that didn't work for me.
Yeah.
So like, I can never go back to that way of living. There's got to be another way. And then you start to soul search in some way, shape, or form.
Now, there's a lot of people that I know that have trouble finding themselves after such a critical or vital, event that happens in their life.
Yeah.
How were you able to? Was there anything else that played a part into your journey? You got into the self-development space, and I understand some of the services that you do, which is amazing, by the way. What else part of your journey? Because I understand you went through like a 5-year kind of research. You did a lot of studying and things like that.
I think for me, I am very much a Taurus, so I'm very grounded and curious, and okay, I want to know why things are the way that they are.
Absolutely.
Before I dive into some type of topic, I like to be pretty well versed in the situation.
Okay.
I am the patient that asks the doctor a million questions, and they're like, I've got 15 minutes. And I'm like, no, you don't. My insurance is paying you. You're going to answer my 1,000 questions. And then I pull out a roll of them. I'm just kidding.
You're talking to the registered nurse over here. I'm the one that was like next to you and the doctor, like, what are you going to say, doc?
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
What I mean?
And I've got like this, you know, when like Willy Wonka pulls out the paper of like announcing the contest, like that's how long my questions are about things. But no, in all seriousness, I'm very question oriented. I want to learn a lot about something. And so what happened was shortly after that relationship ended, I met someone after that, and he was in this quote unquote spiritual world, very conscious. So we had a very conscious relationship that allowed me to want to, like, it was a very safe container to learn. And he was an avid reader. And so he would recommend me all these books. And then I read one book he'd recommend, fell in love with it. And then I would just read more and more and more. And so what happened is it started this whole journey. I've read like over 300 books in a span of, I don't know, a year and a half.
You just got engulfed, basically.
1,000%. Like, and as a lot of people do when you get really into something, it's like you go through the preachy phase. You know, that's when you change a diet or you get into CrossFit or something like that. You're like, CrossFit, veganism, keto, you know, whatever it is. But then you kind of like level out. And so I was definitely in the preachy phase a little bit longer than most people, because I was just like, oh my God, this, and oh my God, that. And everyone's just like, okay.
Well, it was different. It was kind of like a different world, right? You kind of never got exposed to that world until then.
No, I was never exposed to that world.
Exactly.
So it was a whole, I mean, it's really interesting to look back at 2013 and see how the way that I live currently, it was not accepted in a lot of ways.
Accepted as far as society, or you mean like, okay, I gotcha.
Yeah, no, I mean like talking about crystals, you're immediately like weird, right? Or
okay,
like
gotcha.
Talking about tarot cards, the people are just like, whoa, that's scary. Or, you know, even ways of having relationship, it was confusing to people when you're talking about, you know, people like David Data's philosophy and things like that. And so I think what began was a bit of a struggle for me as far as sticking to my new belief system in an old belief system, so to speak.
It sounds like it was a little transition that you had to.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was I had to dive into the new way of living, because no one was living the way that I was. Like, LA wasn't LA the way it is now in 2013. Like,
yeah, definitely.
It was, you know, I would be categorized as someone who lives on the boardwalk in Venice versus who I am now.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, it was very different.
Like, no offense, like a tree hugger or something, like something like really out there.
Crunchy or out there or a hippie or whatever people would want to say. Yeah. So I think it was a bit of a deep dive struggle of commitment.
Yeah, definitely.
I was saying like, okay, well, now that I'm like quote unquote awake, like, do I go, like, if this isn't what other people believe, do I go back into the way that I've been taught, but I don't believe that anymore, so what happens? And it was like completely living in two different worlds. And then eventually I think at the same time it aligned with my spontaneous travel. So I just ended up meeting a lot of people on the road that were very similar to me, and, you know, also soul searching in some way, shape, or form. And so as I was accepted by others, I was able to accept myself. I understand you travel a lot too, right? Yes. Aside from that, so how did because it's clear out there, traveling does wonders for people. Oh yeah. Right? Well, I mean, when you travel, you live in a faster pace, so to speak. Like, if you go on a trip, you have 5 days to experience everything in the city that you can, right? So time becomes extremely social, like of a social construct, because you're able to all of a sudden fit in so much in those 5 days. However, when you're home, you can not nearly fit in as much, right? So it's very, very interesting if you dive into the philosophy of time and things like that, but we won't. It's a story for another time. But I won't get super out there with you right now. But anyway, the point is that, so what happens is, and there was a study, I don't remember if it was Psychology Today or Forbes or something about entrepreneurs and travel and whatever. But the point is basically you kind of live faster in that amount of time. And so I think travel speeds up your growth because you're more open to the experiences when you're somewhere else versus when you're here. And then you come here and you're definitely not in the same place that you were.
Definitely. And we're definitely talking about solo independent traveling, like by yourself or even just
with friends.
It doesn't matter, right?
Just traveling in general.
Yeah, just getting out of your norm.
Getting out of your comfort zone, really.
Definitely, yeah. One of the things I wanted to talk about, so obviously there's things that happen to people, right? You just spoke about this, right? People go through a life-changing event, whether it's, I don't know, they get fired from their job, maybe a spouse they break up with, whatever it may be, right? A subject that obviously always comes up, and I know you probably agree with this in the self-development space, is how we feed our environment, as far as having toxic relationships, having a toxic environment, and maybe being in a toxic workplace, a place where you don't find any fulfillment, any rewards, spiritual rewarding. Why do you think, just from maybe the things that you've been able to, accumulate through your knowledge, that people often put themselves in that position? Because it's becoming very apparent now that a lot of people kind of just feel like they're stuck in this position, and they feel like constrained and they can't get out of it. And I know I struggled through that, and I'm sure you did at one point.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so why do you think people kind of put themselves in that position? And throughout your journey, it seems like you were able to find that comfort and find that new path. I feel like a lot of people can't find that. And so I wanted to get your perspective on that.
Well, I think it all comes down to people being afraid of change.
Definitely.
People are afraid to get out of their comfort zone. They're afraid, they think that their job is the be all end all, when in reality there are a ton of other jobs out there. They think that they're it's funny because I've done a fear exercise with many clients, and I'm like, what's your biggest fear? And they're like, I'm gonna be homeless. Like, the odds of that happening are so slim. Like, it's not real. It's all these fears that are in our mind to the extreme almost, that really bring us into like this black hole of non-action. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's you just feel like you're in quicksand almost.
Yes.
When you're like, okay, I'm almost moving and I'm trying, and you make that one small step out of the situation, and then all of a sudden these crazy fears. And I'm not talking about like little fears like, oh, this doesn't feel good. Like, we go into a very big fear spiral of what's the absolute worst that can happen.
Yeah.
And we allow that to then define ourselves and say, then, well, we're not worthy of that happening. So I would say about 90% of people that are in those situations, it's all change. It's all being afraid of change and what happens on the other side of doing something differently.
I feel like there's a process to it, though. There's a process of when you realize it, and then there's a process of when you accept it. Is that part of something that you've noticed, like maybe with your clients? Like, for instance, when someone says, hey, I'm not happy, I'm trying to soul search here. Is there a part where you actually really need to accept before moving forward and pushing yourself?
No.
Really? Okay.
No. Do you know who Mel Robbins is?
Mel Robbins, no.
Mel Robbins is amazing. Highly recommend anybody listening to check her stuff out. She's a theory called the 5-second rule. Okay. And so you make a decision and you act on it within 5 seconds. If you
okay. Actually, I have heard of this. Okay.
So, because the reality is after 5 seconds, your brain will kick in and go into the fear loop of the comfort zone and keeping you quote unquote safe. I would say my work with women, and also, because the thing is, I do work with women personal development wise, but I also help people build brands. And so online brands, so do brand strategy, and that is with men and women. And it's all the same, right? Like, why isn't your brand moving forward? Well, there's some type of fear. Why isn't your life moving forward? Well, there's some type of fear.
There's definitely some sort of relationship.
Comfort zone. Or if I make money, I'm bad. Somewhere in their narrative, they were told that, or these people are bad who drive Lamborghinis, or who whatever lifestyle this person wants, right? Or, the like personal development wise, if I find love and I'm happy, then that's bad. All good things are bad. There's always some type of narrative of bad, right?
Yeah.
So the point is that actually the process is really just deciding. You just have to decide that you don't want to live in this way anymore, and then I can help you.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not my job to have you decide. It's my job to guide you out of the past the decision.
Mm-hmm.
But I do not spend time with the deciding and accepting that there's going to be a change, because you're never going to accept that there's going to be a change. It's just you just do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I mean, on the first initial call, we talk about those things, and then once they're ready, we just start. And I will start you very quickly so that you don't talk yourself out of making the change.
Nice.
I don't think anybody should spend a lot of time in the first part of it, because you're going to talk yourself out of it.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to.
Yeah.
It's the way our psyche works. It's the way our brain functions.
It's human behavior,
It
right?
is.
Yeah.
Because our brain functions in a way that it will tell you all of the negative things and all of the fears and all of the worst possible scenarios within 3 seconds, and then within the next 3 seconds, all of the solutions to get out of those.
Mm-hmm.
So that's unproductive thoughts,
Yeah.
because those are things that are likely not going to happen. So the idea is to just decide to just not go into the unproductive thoughts and just make the productive action, which is to decide to make the change.
Mm-hmm. Is there a mindset hack to kind of, create the duration of that a little bit longer, so you have?
What do you mean?
like the 5-second rule. You know what I mean? Is there a mindset hack of some kind where you could more than 5 seconds where you could make that decision before all that fear comes, or that just?
Well, here's the thing. I think. Okay. Do I think it's legitimately 5 seconds? No.
Yeah, of course.
It could be, depending upon the decision. I know for me, if I take action within an hour of making a decision, I'm very set on making the decision.
Mm-hmm.
If I have more than an hour, or I have a day and I haven't taken the action, I probably don't want to do the thing.
Yeah.
So I think it depends on the person. It depends on really how stuck are you? How much more of your quote unquote stagnant life are you willing to endure?
Yeah.
And how badly do you want to make the change? How badly do you want to get out of that?
Mm-hmm.
That's on you.
Mm-hmm.
That your decision making is on you.
Well, everyone's very unique. They have different circumstances, right?
Right.
Like we're talking about. So it could take longer for somebody to adjust or make that decision.
Right. I mean, some people. I've had people get on a call with somebody in a month ago, and then they're not ready to pull the trigger, and then they hit me up a month later, and they're like, "Okay, I'm ready. I'm so ready right now. Can we get started tomorrow?" And I'll be like, "Yeah, sure." Because you're ready now, and you need to. That's the thing is I can't make you decide anything.
Yeah.
As a coach or as a consultant, whether it's, like I said, personal development or brand strategy, I'm not here to make the decisions. I'm here to guide you and facilitate you to create the life that you want, to facilitate the experience.
I love that.
So, I personally think that any coach that's going to tell you exactly what to do and when, and not give yourself leeway to create it yourself, I mean, I don't know. Stuff I don't agree with.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I'm glad you bring this up, because it comes to a point where you can't force somebody to be like, hey, you're ready, let's go.
Yeah.
They have to make that decision to be ready and make that change and, ready to move forward.
Right. How many people are in a relationship that isn't serving them, and then they're like, oh, this isn't good for me, and then they stay for 6 months, and then finally something happens, and they're like, I can't do this anymore. Well, guess what? That was your journey to get to that place. Just because your friends are telling you something is bad doesn't necessarily mean you're ready to let it go. What I do believe is that even, let's say people in those scenarios, or if you're still in something that you consciously know might not be the best for you, then there's still something there that you're benefiting from. There's still a lesson to be learned. So I just never believe in, number one, giving people unsolicited advice, and number two, pushing someone into doing something that they're just not ready to do, which is why you will never see me hard sell anything. I've never once hard sold anything in my business.
I think it's a huge disservice when you're trying to push somebody to do something that they may not be ready for, right?
Right.
You know what? I'm glad you bring this up too, because I think a huge topic that is out there right now when people make these changes is when people are in a sense of desperation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When people are when they just had enough, or they were just, it's just interesting because I find that people will not make the necessary changes in their lives or move forward or know what they need to do until there's a desperate like situation that happens with them. For instance, like let's just say they lost their job. For instance, like again, they someone in their family died, or maybe they broke up with their spouse or something like that. It's crazy how desperation plays a huge role into making that person say, all right, I'm all in, when they kind of knew already they needed to make that decision. It seems like as if desperation is a huge like asset to someone making that decision. But again, not everybody can make that decision right away, and let alone not everybody can tell you when you're ready for that decision. It's just that person when they're ready to go. I think regardless though, right, whether it's desperation or whatever it is, it's whenever they're ready, and then they can move forward.
Yeah, I think that I don't like the word desperation. I don't think it's I don't think anyone's like okay, in theory, yeah, we're all desperate to make a change, and you're like, okay, I'm ready. Like, I can't live this way anymore, and you're like the meme that's like, why,
Yes.
Okay, sure, that could be dramatized, and that could be how it feels, but I think that ultimately what's actually happening isn't a desperation and a cry for help like that, which I think in marketing a lot of people will play to. I think what I feel is actually happening is you're having a fucking breakdown. You're having a breakdown of every way that you've ever thought was the way that you were living that now you realize isn't serving you.
Yeah.
And now the only way out is through. The only way out is a change. So I like the word of like a breakdown or on the verge of a transformation more than a desperation. Because
I love that. No, I love that.
Nothing is like a desperation for me. Just the word comes from a lack, and I don't think that there's any sense of lack, because I mean you can tell me all the things that you hate about your life, and I can tell you in all those things that you hate why they're good for you. So it's all also based on perception. Yeah,
definitely, because a lot of people, they have different meanings attached to words. Everyone's perceptions are completely different, right?
Yeah, so I work with people on their definitions.
Definitions, nice.
Yeah, I have a course, and we spent a whole week on definitions, just like what words trigger you and why, and you'll be surprised. Like, that's amazing. We all have a huge. Everything is perception. Yeah. Every single thing, the way that we read situations, the way that we use words, the way that we talk to ourselves, like it's all different. It's
like the way you read a text message, like somebody could take it the wrong way versus somebody's like, no, wait a second, look into it, look at exactly what they're saying.
1000%.
Or an email.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, let's go back just a little bit. Let's touch again on kind of your journey. So you did a lot of reading, you did a lot of traveling. Was there really anything within those years that really just stuck to you, aside from the benefits of traveling? Is there anything that you learned personally about yourself, maybe, that really sticks out, that really defined kind of who you are, or maybe, everything that you're doing?
I think what I realized is that, like, I don't give a fuck what anybody thinks.
There we go. I love it. Anna, my last episode before this, I did a podcast solo segment on liberating yourself.
Yeah.
And liberating yourself meaning liberating yourself meaning do not care what people think.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, I think that's what I learned. Like, I think in a lot of ways, I was able to take that idea of not, quote unquote, not giving a fuck and actually, like, living in that way. And I mean, there are times, of course, like as a recovering people pleaser, where I can see where I'm letting like other people's feelings define my worth in some ways. But then I'm like, wait, at the end of the day, these people don't pay my rent. These people like don't feed my dog, like they aren't here to fulfill my happiness. So why am I allowing that? And I'm like, fuck that. I don't really care. And then I move on, but it's like, it took me, it took me to go down this journey of a different way of living. It took me to get like hella spiritual and be what's defined as so weird and out there to really be like, well, you know what? It works for me, so yeah. Sorry.
I have never been more productive, more high-performing, just more awakened, more, I don't know, I could just keep going on and on until I finally liberated myself. I don't feel like there's such thing as perfection, so I'm clearly going to admit that I still struggle with it sometimes.
Yeah.
But I could tell you right now, I have improved a lot and I'm just out there. I mean,
Yeah.
you probably, I know you follow me. You see me. I'm out there. I'm just myself, and I have never I just feel amazing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm sure, I'm positive that's something that you teach with, with your clients. Is I'm sure it relates to perception also.
Yeah, I mean, it relates to what you're allowing to be your definition of worth and self-value. Ultimately, when you're letting what other people think define your life, and you're making decisions based on what you think people will care. I mean, like, it's very rare for me to even ask friends for advice before I take an action. Like, I usually take an action and then ask for advice later. I'm like, okay, I did this thing. What do you guys think? You know, or I decided to launch this thing, or I am going to go on this trip, or whatever it is. But, I think for me, ultimately, I'm single. So it also benefits me in that way, because I don't have any, like, I've been living, this very different lifestyle for quite some time that I don't actually have anybody to answer to, so to speak. So, I mean, I think that I'm in that benefit of, like, creating this life of, like, quote unquote authenticity. And I keep using quote unquote because they're like buzzwords, and everyone has their own definition of it. But, the way that I live is exactly who I am. Yes. The way that I talk online, the way that I show up online is exactly who I am. Absolutely. And being able to just make my decisions without having to ask people before I do them is very freeing. We'll see what happens if I get into a relationship when there's somebody else there that I have to now be like, hey, I want to go on this trip and see ya, but I think also just being able to fully own who you are is so freeing. And absolutely. I mean, my brand like almost 10x'd when I finally started showing up as myself.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, I'm so glad you brought that up, because it just goes in line with everything that I've been trying to, I try to share life experiences. I'm the type, and I'm sure you could relate to this. We're not here to preach anything that we know that, that we don't believe in, let alone that we've experienced. Yeah. And, part of the things that we share, especially on this platform, is to definitely share some of the things that I go through, and, just let people know that there's other people out there just like you. Yeah. We're relatable. Like, dude, I'm a normal person. Like, I struggled with the same thing as you, and as soon as you just let it go, what people think about you. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not going to remember some clown who leaves a comment on my social media page, like 10 years down the road. I'm not even going to remember and care. And for people to let that one thing hinder your potential and the things that you're trying to do is just mind-blowing. And I can't believe you come to a point where you start to realize, like, I cannot believe I let this hold me back for this long. You know what I mean?
Well, definitely. I think ultimately also, when it comes to building your brand, and anybody who's out there that's trying to build your online business, like, the more authentic you are, the more you share your story, the more you become relatable, the more success you have. So I think everyone's doing themselves a disservice, no matter what industry you're in, no matter what you do for work, by not being yourself. Because you're missing out on so much life
definitely
by doing the thing that you want to do that you're so afraid of.
As part of some of your services, do you do NLP, the neuro-linguistic programming? No. Okay. Is that something fairly new though?
No, it's not. It's not new. I've studied it. I just think that here's the thing, and I'm probably gonna get backlash for this, but also I don't give a fuck. I think NLP is quite manipulative.
Really? Okay. It's
a way to speak to somebody to get them to do what you want them to do. It's a way to write a sales page to get them to buy your product. Yeah.
It's a different form of communication, basically, though. Also. Yeah.
It's a way to lead somebody into something. Yeah. In the way that their words would use, in their own words, essentially. I'm sure, like I said, the people that are so disagreeing with me right now, that you'll have a different view on that, and like DM me, let me know, we can talk about it. But I'm sure that it can be used, for good. But I've only seen it, especially in the digital marketing industry, used for persuasiveness to have you
and leads and
purchase something.
And sales and stuff. Yeah.
So I don't believe in that.
You don't believe in it? Okay.
No.
So this is great because this is what, the parables is about too, and podcasting is to have open dialogue.
I thought you were going to say NLP. I was going to say, where's my car?
I'm out of here. Back to New York, right? No. There's one thing.
I quit.
And because I'm a very perspective person, and I love to, again, getting perspective by someone with expertise and knowledge like you. The subject about loving yourself and appreciating yourself. I wanted to discuss this because I think there's a huge disservice out there going on right now. And again, just chime in. And this is why I'm here to share this perspective. I see two sides to it. I see one where there's a huge disservice where people are saying, hey, depending on the person and maybe how they approach it, hey, love yourself, appreciate yourself, it's okay. And it gives them this mental state of not, just being comfortable and not being able to grow, to mature, and to learn and all those good things. But on the flip side, I also think there's a certain point where someone needs to realize and be confident to love themselves, to appreciate who they are and what they're capable of, and then go from there, and then accept and be ready to take on the next journey, whatever it is, and then take the necessary steps to go there. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's not that simple to tell someone to just love themselves if they don't have the tools to do so.
There we go.
You can't just say, okay, love yourself. Like, you can't say, you're doing very unhealthy things to your body, but love yourself. Like, is love yourself just saying it's okay to live in the way that's not making you happy? Or is love yourself then saying, I love myself enough to stop doing the things that are detrimental to my health, like doing drugs or like partying too much or like, eating McDonald's every day, which granted, whoever does that and loving it and it works for you, that's fine. I'm not saying that's not fine. But what I'm saying is that if it's genuinely affecting you and you're upset and you're feeling stagnant and stuck, well, guess what? Then there's something that needs to be changed, and doing the change and sticking to it and having the self-discipline is loving yourself. But the thing is that you can't just tell somebody to do it and they don't have the tools, like I said in the beginning of the statement. So it's really about providing them the tools to do so. Because you will be infinitely more successful when you're your own best friend, meaning you talk to yourself well and you treat yourself well and you're, doing the things to really take care of yourself in a healthy manner. You will get infinitely more successful, but you have to make the decision to do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. I just, do you agree that there is in the self-development space, there are people that are kind of just saying, love yourself. You're okay with who you are, and they don't give the tools. Yeah,
no, I think that's like a crock of shit.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying.
I'm very polarizing.
No, it's cool. Like,
no, it's just like, here's the thing. It's the same thing by saying like, build a business so you can drive a Lamborghini, read a book a day, and you'll be smarter. Like, who the fuck has time to read a book a day? Granted, okay, I've had time to read a book a day, and I did. But that was different than an average person doesn't have time. Yeah. Like, there's, it's like, oh, I'm driving a Lamborghini, buy my course. Well, what does your course do? How is it going to actually help me? And how are you going to provide the results that are going to show me that I'm going to actually get the Lamborghini? It's a huge disservice.
It's a huge misconception that what they're doing they're just given this image of of what they drive the Lamborghini, but at the end of the day, what are the tools? What are you providing that will get you there? You know what I mean?
Right. And there are people that are driving, these Lamborghinis, and they do have really dope products, but the Lamborghini is outshining the value. Like, they're not actually providing content and value. They're just saying, like, if you do whatever I say, you'll get this lifestyle, which, like, okay, in theory, I understand, but that's, like, the top 5%.
Yeah.
Like it's like an MLM. Really, it's marketing. Like, if you think about it, it's like the idea of an MLM, meaning with these false promises, promises that are false, if you put in the work, you can 1000% do whatever this marketer is telling you to do. Yes. Yeah. But only 5% of the people will actually put in the work and get that success. Just like an MLM. You have to get in at the top to get the money, make the money based on the whole tree situation, where you keep recruiting people.
Yes.
And the bottom people will never, there's literally no way for them to get as successful as the top. So you have to get in, you have to do the work, right? So I think that, it's about actually taking action. Like, and inaction is also a choice and also an action. But you have to decide, okay, yes, I love myself. Yes, I'm great. Cool. But like, what's going to help me be better? To love yourself, in my opinion, is to help yourself become the best you can be.
The best version of yourself.
Yeah. It's not just being stagnant. Like, sure, I love myself right now, but there's 20 other things I can do later today that will help me better myself. And I have to decide to do one of them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Definitely.
that kind of idea. Like, I can sit here, with 48,000 followers and be like, I fucking love myself. It's great. Like, but guess what? Like, no, I have shit to do too. Like, I have shit to change too. You know?
Absolutely.
There's no one on this planet that's perfect. There's no one on this planet that has amazing self-love to the extent of being perfect.
Absolutely.
We all have shit to change. We can all be better.
I think I think what a lot of people are doing is they're just not putting it out there, their struggles, that they're relatable.
Oh yeah, you see the highlight reel on social media. I just wrote a post about this. Like, we only see the highlight reel of people. We are talking way too much. We're not listening enough.
Yeah.
We are just saying, this is my life and this is awesome and this is what I can teach you, but we're not consuming other people's information to also be better.
Yeah.
We're just saying what we're saying is working, but then I will ask you, well, are you the smartest person in the room? Because if you're the smartest person in the room, it's not working. Because
Definitely.
you should always be the dumbest person in the room.
Yeah, you know what? And I think too, it's not like we're trying to say, hey, let all your personal stuff out there. But at the same time, I just feel like with a person of, I guess, power, like, if you got the followers and, you have the attention of these people, there has to be some sort of obligation of some kind. There has to be something, you know what I mean? You can't just be putting this out there and putting this misconception, especially to the younger people who are, who are looking up to you.
Well, I mean, the people that aren't sharing their story are leaving a lot of impact on the table.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Because I believe...
1,000%.
Yeah, like, for me, success isn't money. Success is being able to impact and help others impact and have a domino effect in the world and help everybody wake up to their mission and whatever that is and say, like, yo, let's fucking change shit up together. Like, let's all have a fucking glow up in 2019.
I love that you cursed.
I know, sorry. I'm just, like, letting it go. But
let it go.
No, but it's just, like, it is that. It's like,
true.
If I want to have a transformation and I want to make some change and create some waves, I want everybody to go with me. Like,
Absolutely.
I want everyone to come with me. Like, for me, success isn't, like, if I'm the only successful person, it's not worth it to me because it's fucking boring. Like, I want everybody to be up there with me. I want to take everyone with me.
Yeah.
And I think that some people lose sight of that part of success, which is just being impactful and trying to help the greater good of the world,
Absolutely.
so to speak, or your world, instead of just money. Like, okay, cool. What are you gonna do with it? Are you gonna change some shit?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like, for me, it's like the definition of success is just being able to provide as much value and create as much content as I can to help people. Like, it's being of service. Like, if you be of service all day, money will come.
Yes.
1,000%. I built my whole business on referral. My whole business. I barely promote. And it's because I firmly believe in that. If you provide value and you provide service and you help people, you'll always be okay.
Yeah. I've been saying this for quite some time, but the more value you bring, the less you have to sell.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Exactly. Because at that point, then, you're just, you all you're doing is it's your time. And you have to obviously have an energy exchange because money is energy and money is a it's a currency. And so, if you were giving out free advice all day, it would be like kind of a martyr syndrome almost. It's actually extremely selfish, not selfless. So it's like, at that point you're just charging your time
Yeah.
and having the person pay, so then it's an even exchange of energy.
Absolutely.
So then you're really not selling anything but helping people.
Yeah. Positive energy, people.
Yeah.
Positive energy. All right. So what would you say, and I'm very curious to know, and you don't have to answer because we may be getting a little personal here. What's probably some of the most common problems or issues you feel a lot of your clients have that come to you? And again, I'm a nurse, so we're talking HIPAA violation over here, so I completely understand. But I really want to highlight, of course, what you do, because I believe in it. Like, it's crazy, and that's why I reached out to you. So again, I really kind of want to highlight what you do, and I know a lot of people can, can seek advice from you. You know what I mean? So
as I'm putting my hair up,
no worries.
To be real authentic. So for my clients, a lot of, it's a lot of feeling stuck in jobs that they don't like.
Okay.
That's a lot of what it is. And it's feeling unfulfillment in relationships, in their daily existence, in jobs. And marriages. Marriages tend to be a big thing, especially people who got married when they're young, and then all of a sudden, they're 30, they got married at 22, and they come to me like, my whole 20s have been kids and a husband, and like, I feel lost. Like, I don't even know what my purpose is anymore. Or they've been in the same industry forever, and it's a dead-end job, and they're just like, live in middle America, and that's all they know, and they want to move to a big city, and they don't have the support system to do that. Yeah. Or people that are just attracting really negative relationship patterns. And then the people that I work, as far as brand strategy, it's usually someone who has an online brand that they have a lot of ideas, and they have a lot of messages, and they just have too much going on, which is kind of the same in both aspects. I'm the person that comes in, whether it's personal in your relationship or whether it's in your business, and I'm like, okay, let's streamline this. Like, let's see where the root of this is, where's the confusion lie, and then let's take action.
Well, I'm going to be talking to you after the recording, because I'm one of those guys that have like the craziest ideas. Executing it's a whole different story, though. You know what I mean? So we'll be talking after.
Shiny object syndrome.
Since we touched on it real quick, what do you think is probably the reason that a lot of people feel like they don't, they lack that passion, or they don't, or finding their purpose? Actually, that's actually where I want to.
Where people
why do you think people, they come to realization that I don't know what my purpose is, I got to find my purpose? Why do you think a lot of people, we touched on it a little bit, maybe because of their environment, maybe the people they hang out with, things like that, but I know obviously there's so many people out there who just don't know what their purpose is, and they lack the tools or the steps to find that purpose. What do you think on that?
I think a lot of people, they've just been stuck in their comfort zone, and they've been stuck in a job that they were told that they should work after college.
Definitely.
Or they got married young, and they were
a broken system.
They were told that they needed to get married at 22.
Yeah.
They were told that they needed to have children. They were told and told and told.
Society, right?
Yeah, it is a lot of that, and so you become a machine to this big thing called society, and you are just, living in a way where you don't really know how to think for yourself productively. Yes. You're actually only thinking. The thing is, what I think it comes down to is this survival mentality versus like productive and efficient and abundant mentality, which is like the survival mode of, okay, I wake up and I go to the gym and I go to work, and then I feed my kids, and then I, maybe sleep with my husband, maybe don't, maybe one of us are on the couch, but like, cause that's what we're told, but, it's like this type of like monotonous, like, hamster wheel that if you think about it, it's really sad how many people in the world are living in this way. And so all of a sudden, usually you came across someone on Instagram, or like someone sent you a post, or someone, decided they were going to make a change. And then you're like, oh shit, there's another way of living. There's another way to make decisions. There's a more productive and efficient way to live, which is to be fucking happy and realize that like you can have it all, and like life is abundant.
So a little bit like a lack of exposure to that. It sounds like a little bit.
I mean, I didn't have exposure to any of the things and the way that I live.
Yeah.
It's beautiful now that like my immediate family is definitely like changing also, and they're also open to a lot of the things that I am. But that wasn't the case 6-7 years ago. You're not exposed to a lot of things, and I had a benefit because I lived in 2 big cities, and I've traveled since I was 2 years old, so I've seen a lot of different things. But if you think about it, that's a very privileged thing.
Absolutely.
And it's a lot of people aren't getting that exposure.
What's this might be a vague question. Is there anything that you think that we could do better as people to kind of put ourselves in a position to prosper, to kind of grow? Because again, I know we keep going back to sometimes we put ourselves in that position and we're scared to be in that, we're scared to move forward, and we put ourselves in this, this position, and we get uncomfortable. Is there like some things that you think that people can do in general just to put themselves in a better position?
Yeah, I think having compassion.
There we go.
There's this man in the fitness industry, and he currently, as we're talking, is getting a ton of viral, like he went viral because he said something extremely polarizing and super fucked up. And I'm not going to go into what it is, but the point is that one of the other things he said besides what he's going viral is he said, I'm an asshole and I'm not going to apologize for that, because that is what did he say, positive masculinity is. And
wow.
I wrote back, it's a story for another time, but the point is that I actually wrote back. And I don't troll people, and I'm usually like, meh, whatever, do your thing. However, this person is the exact thing that society does, which is making excuses and saying we are who we are and we don't have to change and we can't change and this is just what it is, and accepting, quote unquote, what it is.
Yes.
So as a society, what we can do is realize that it's not what it is, it's what it can be, and taking the action towards that, and realizing that, hey, you know what, if you're called something negative enough times, maybe it's time to actually make a positive change. Maybe it's time to be a better person. Maybe it's time to, strive towards something beneficial for yourself and your family and your brand or whatever it is. And I think ultimately all that is the opposite of abundance, because if you're just saying this is what it is, then it's kind of scarcity mindset. And so it's, as a community or a society or whatever, I think to help make positive change, it's realizing that there's enough to go around. There's enough love, there's enough money, there's enough food, there's enough everything. There is enough. And realizing that the more compassion that you can show to every single person in your life by just accepting people for who they are, and allowing people to just show you who they are instead of projecting things onto them.
Absolutely.
And showing everybody like this way of unconditional love, so to speak, there's a domino effect in the world.
Absolutely.
And so if you show your neighbor love and compassion, and the person bagging your groceries, and the homeless person on the street, and the UPS man and the postman, and the valet, and like every single person you come across, the same type
the janitor,
of compassion.
anybody.
No one is below you. We're all equal, and we all bleed red.
Yeah.
And if you wake up to that and you show up and really give everybody like a beautiful experience with you as much as you can, because that's all we can control, right? So if we can all show up in that way, that's change. It's change.
Absolutely. And we need it. I think we definitely need it. I think we're just in a time right now where we need to spread some more positive energy. Everyone could eat, right? Like you said. And, there's just more good to bad. There really is.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, because it's good and bad is relative also. It's it's about realizing that like while a duality needs to exist in order for order and energy and whatever, you don't have to live in a certain way.
Yeah.
You know, like you can choose light, you can choose positive, and I don't mean like positive as being blind to shit going on and saying everything's okay, because sometimes shit's not okay. But speaking up for yourself and seeing like the good in the bad for yourself and your life, and using everything, every life experience as a growing experience, every breakdown as a breakthrough, allowing yourself to feel and then moving on from it once you're done feeling the full spectrum of emotions. Like that is big.
Definitely. You know what, guys? I'm gonna go on like a 2-month vacation because this dialogue is this episode is so good. My goodness.
This podcast is retired.
So we are running out of time a little bit, and I probably missed some things.
It's okay. I'll just come back on.
Yeah, just come back. You know what? We're gonna talk after this, so don't worry. By the way, I want to know that person's IG handle because I'm gonna leave like just one emoji on there and it'll say it all.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
But anyway, let's just talk about again more of your services. I'm sure I missed a lot. What else exactly do you provide so the people who are listening, if they want to reach out to you, they know what you provide and the services you do?
Yeah, so I do life coaching and brand strategy. I work with some big online brands and some small ones. And then I also work with women across the world, all the way to Taiwan, Europe, you name it. I've probably worked with someone from there, which is really cool. And so I help women get unstuck, find their purpose, and make an impact in the world. And I also help brands become more impactful and dial in their message. And then on top of that, which we didn't touch on, I do tarot readings. So there's a whole spiritual aspect of my business. But you can find me on Instagram, and you could just DM me and go from there.
What's your Instagram handle?
It's love, Love, and then Anna with an H, so ANNAHROSE.
All right.
Yeah.
Also, in addition, is there any plans for the future that we might not know about, that maybe, I don't know, that you got something working on, or is it a little secretive still?
There are some things in the works.
Ooh, I can't wait.
I cannot talk about that
Of course.
yet.
Okay.
But some really big things happening for the brand. And then second quarter, I'm going all in on digital content. And I've been Twitch streaming, so we'll see if that takes off. But basically, the immediate thing that I'll be tackling is creating digital content and creating more video stuff.
Lovely. All right. Well, once you're on the parables, there's this lifelong relationship. So I know we're going to be in touch a lot. Yeah. I actually, I've never done this before, but you know what? Collective Thursdays, my solo segment. I've been doing it. It's more away from people's stories and how they came about, like the things they do, their expertise and all that stuff, their success and stuff. And I invite you to come back to Collective Thursdays, and we will discuss some interesting topics that I feel could really impact some people. Just straight to the text, like straight to the subject.
Yeah,
and
I
if
would
you're
love
willing
that.
to,
I'm so down. I will drive.
You will drive.
Not
all right.
That bad.
You know what? Anyone want to pitch in for maybe the Uber? Or maybe she'll have her Tesla by then, right? But I invite you. I thank you so much.
I would love that.
Again, her handle, I'll leave it below. I appreciate you so much. Yeah. Again, Parables Podcast, as of this recording, I keep saying this, but I am just overwhelmed with the gratitude. 16 countries have listened in on this thing. Just started mid-September. I appreciate you guys so much. And the amount of value and content you brought here is just amazing. I tell you, every person that steps into the studio, I never know what to expect, but it's always
And we didn't even know each other.
Yes.
This is our first meeting.
And it's always the randomest people that I do not know that I reach out to. I think I have, if there's anything I'm good at, I think it's that. I'm able to find like this really special species of people and just get them on here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's one thing I'm good at. Maybe that's it.
Well, thank you for having me. And to our listeners out there, just know that you are worthy of having the life that you want, and that you can have it all, and that it's okay to feel and it's okay to love people. Like, it really is. Like, we don't have to hold ourselves back from anything, and do the thing that you're most afraid of.
Absolutely. And also positive energy, full circle. All right.
Yes.
Parables Podcast with Annah Rose. I appreciate you so much. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.